We're going to look at inverse functions. So, what defines an inverse function? So, inverse functions, you essentially swap your x's and y's, but it only works for one-to-one function. So, you might need to restrict the domain so it becomes a one-to-one function. So, A, sketch a graph of x squared minus 2x minus 3. We'll factorize that. So, it's x minus 3, x plus 1. Then let's try green. It's a positive parabola. It goes through 3 and -1, so it's like that. We can see this is not a negative parabola. 1, yeah, that's 4. We can see, sorry, this is not a one-to-one function, sorry. Because it's not a one-to-one function, and it says sketch a graph of the inverse, we can sketch a graph of the inverse, but we can't state whether or not, we can't say this is a relation unless we restrict it. So if you try to write this as a function, it doesn't really work. So what you then do, it says on the same set of axes. Probably should read the question. The part B is also here. What you then do, put in y equals x line. So then any x values become y values become x values. So then we have a 3 here, -1. 1, 4 becomes -4, 1. So -4 is here, and then 1 is there. And then this will also go through -3. So then if it then looks something like this. Okay. C, state the type of mapping for the parabola and its inverse and whether or not the relations are functions. So the first one, we have multiple x values for one y value, so then that's actually many to 1. So y is many to 1. The other one, however, so for the inverse, that is 1 to many. Now, because you have 1 to many, this can't be a function. Because functions are only defined if you have either 1 to 1 or many to 1. But y is a function. So D, give a domain and range for each. So the domain of y is all real. The range of y goes from -4 to infinity. The domain of the inverse is -4 to infinity, because they should swap around, and the range of y, the range of the inverse is then all real. Now, you sometimes need to actually restrict the domain so that you can have a certain value. Now, see how it says x is going from negative infinity to a, that means we're actually trying to push it up to the turning point because it says the largest possible value. If you remember, the turning point was at 1, -4, so then our value of a must be equal to 1. Now when you have a restricted graph, it then becomes 1 to 1. Because it's 1 to 1, you can now find your function of the inverse. So there's your original. Use the y equals to x line, and then reflect it. So x values become y values. So we have 1. So 1 -4 becomes -4, 1. And then the other -1 on the x-axis becomes -1 on the y. And so it turns that way now. It's best if you turn the page around, don't do what I did. Alright, C. Give a domain and range for both graphs. So the domain of y is equal to -infinity to 1. The range of y is going from -4 to infinity. And then remember with the inverse, it just swaps it around. So the domain of the inverse is equal to -4 to infinity. And the range of the inverse is equal to -infinity to 1. Now, I know it's not written on here, but I don't want to make a separate video about it. How you find the inverses, so swap your x and y's. So we have y equals to x squared minus 2x minus 3. Swap them. So you get x equals to y squared minus 2x minus 3. You will need to complete the square to be able to do that. If you try and do it by factorization, it won't work. So we have y squared minus 2x, blah, 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 blah. That looks like nothing. 2x plus 1 minus 1 minus 3. X is then equal to y minus 1 squared minus 4. Then now you can easily move it. So then we get x plus 4 square root plus 1. However, see how you have the negative side for the original graph? That means we will have the negative graph here. So y is equal to negative x plus 4, square root of x plus 4 plus 1. Now don't forget then to choose whether or not you need the negative or the positive. If you choose the wrong one, your graph will not work. So make sure you choose the correct side. Alright, consider a function that fully define the inverse. The inverse of that. So now, if we drew a graph of this, goes from 0 to infinity, it's plus 2, so it looks like that. We will swap out x's and y's. Y equals x squared plus 2, swap them. X equals y squared plus 2. Move the 2 over. So that's x minus 2. You then have to square root it. Now, this time, see how that's a positive section? That means this will be the positive part. So then we have y equals to square root of x minus 2. In terms of our domain and range, they're swapped around from the original. So then we have 2 to infinity, and then our range is going to be 0 to infinity. If you need to picture it, it's swapped around where 2 is there, and it goes that way.